This is about protecting Oklahoma home ownership, the American dream, and it also aligns here with the Trump administration's policies as well, that President Trump recently came out and said people live in homes, not corporations, and is also proposing the same idea.
For 2 sessions now, Oklahoma City Democratic State Representative Mickey Dollens has proposed at the state capitol limits on how many homes out-of-state corporations and hedge funds can own in the state of Oklahoma, and that bill went nowhere last session. This week, that same bill received bipartisan support and is moving forward at the Capitol. Here's what changed. Last month, President Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social account that actions need to be taken to keep institutional investors from buying more single-family homes at well above market value, driving up the cost of home ownership across the country, and he urged Republicans and all of Congress to take action. This week, the House Banking, Financial Services, and Pension Committee passed House Bill 1064 with a bipartisan vote of 5-2. It defines what a hedge fund is and completely locks them out from owning a single-family residence in the entire state of Oklahoma. Dollens says this bill is actually still a work in progress, and definitions and realtor groups are helping to still craft this. So the bill that passed this week will continue to be fine-tuned. Joining me on the program tonight to speak about his bill and the new bipartisan effort is Oklahoma City Democratic State Representative Mickey Dollens himself. Representative, thank you for your time today. I was wondering if you could tell us, this bill sounds very similar to what President Trump put out on Truth Social. Has that helped you gain any ground when it comes to getting this proposal across the finish line?
Rick, I'm glad you brought that up, because I introduced the exact same bill to the same committee last year, and it failed to pass committee. But guess what? President Trump, about a month or two ago, said he wanted to ban institutional investors from buying single-family homes in America. So I thought, why not? This may be a good chance to run the bill again. I passed it out of committee. Thankful to my Republican colleagues who worked with me on this to refine it a little bit, but we can get into those amendments we made. But at the end of the day, this is good for Oklahoma. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. We want to keep the American dream alive right here in Oklahoma. And the way we're headed with institutional investors buying up pretty much, well, in Oklahoma County, 27% of homes, we're not going to get there if we keep going down this path we're headed down.
I was going to say, and I was watching the committee hearing, these people are buying homes above fair market value, jacking up the cost. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Many people may remember a few years ago, China was buying huge swaths of land in rural Oklahoma, paying cash for way over the asking price. What this did was artificially inflated the price of land in rural Oklahoma that prevented local ranchers from expanding their operations. And so the government intervened. We put a moratorium on Iran, Russia, and China from buying more land in Oklahoma, because they were making it more difficult for Oklahomans and a lot of other illegal activity. So while those are adversaries, this is the same concept, albeit domestically, where we're saying that these institutional investors are treating our neighborhoods like stock portfolios. These homes should be going to Oklahomans who are looking to start a family, but instead they're artificially rising the price of homes, paying cash above asking price, and boxing out ordinary people who want to just own a home.
Does this impact, is this a part of the property tax debate, since this has elevated the price of everything in a single neighborhood?
I guess you could make some connections there. Ultimately, it could go into artificially, if the price of homes go up, then yes, the property tax will go up too. So I think that's a fair connection. And as I mentioned, in Oklahoma County, institutional investors own 27% of homes. Across the entire state, they own about 57,000 homes. And because of the relatively cheap properties in Oklahoma and the weak tenant protection laws we have here, Oklahoma is a prime target for these Wall Street investors looking to gobble up the housing market.
So let me ask you this. If I want to be a landlord and I want like 5 homes in Tulsa County, for example, does this restrict me down to like 2 homes or 3 homes? Or how would this impact a local person who wants to have a few properties in their portfolio?
No, it wouldn't affect you at all, but that's a fair question. A lot of people were concerned, well, would I be considered a hedge fund? One person mentioned they own 20 properties. No, far from it. These companies own tens of thousands of homes across America, and as I mentioned, 57,000 homes in Oklahoma. But in order to work with my colleagues in shoring up that definition of exactly what is a hedge fund, what is an institutional investor, this would apply to companies that have management of total assets over $100 million.
So I imagine, would there be new restrictions on realtors to verify who is purchasing some of these properties, or I mean, I even heard what's wrong with me wanting to sell my property for whatever I can get for it? Who verifies who the legit person is?
Yeah, I understand in a free market capitalistic society, that's a fair question too. But it's just like in rural Oklahoma when China comes in and offers you $100,000 over asking price. Many people said they have the right to sell to them. And, they did until we realized all of the bad repercussions that had. So we had to put some enforcement and laws in there. But when it comes to enforcing this rule, we don't want to put the onus on realtors. This would need to be overseen by a state agency.
So what happens next, and how are you feeling with that bipartisan approval of this in the first round of voting?
Well, bipartisan approval is very important to me. And in addition to tightening up the definition around what is a hedge fund, we also, I agreed to eliminate Section D of the bill that would require that institutional investors sell back or divest the properties they own in Oklahoma over a span of 10 years. I think that's the right thing to do. I think it's fair. But in order to get this bill through committee and along the legislative process, I had to strike that provision, and that's okay with me. And because I did that, this bill is headed toward the next step, which is the appropriations and budget oversight. And it'll go through one more committee, and then if it's successful there, it'll go to the House floor. I'm sure there will be great debates and conversations just like the one we're having here. And if it's voted out of the chamber with a simple majority, which in this case would be 51 votes, it would go to the Senate and through the committee process, just like in the House, until eventually, hopefully, if everything goes well, it'll end up on Governor Stitt's desk by May.
So because this is such a problem, is there an emergency on this? Does this take effect in November? And what would happen if I have a house in escrow while you're considering this bill?
Yeah, this would go into effect November of 2026, so thered be some time for planning. And we would work, I'm happy to work with the Realtors Association. They've had some input on here. We've also talked about implementing a percentage cap on X amount of homes can't be owned by out-of-state Wall Street investors. So it still has some work, but that's the beautiful thing with the legislative process. It's not quick, and that's intentional. We want to make sure that there's no unseen repercussions or things that we look back on and say, we could have done that better, because this is a very big deal. It's gotten the attention of national politics. As I mentioned, President Trump has made this one of his issues as of a couple months ago, but it's something I've been advocating for in Oklahoma for the past 3 years, in addition to innovative housing solutions, getting Americans and specifically Oklahomans on the track toward home ownership, which we found is by far the best investment that one can make for the long term.
So since this bill is so complicated, let me ask you, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you would like to highlight for the viewers that we have not touched on?
No, it's really simple that we want Oklahoma homes in Oklahoma hands and families. And as President Trump said, people live in homes, not corporations. And, there's a few policy issues that we agree on, but that's one of them. And thankfully, that has made it to where this bill is now moving along the legislative process. But it was a good bill 2 years ago, and it's a good bill today, and it will be a good bill tomorrow. But first and foremost, at the front of my mind is Oklahomans and the American dream, and making sure that everyone, not just those who are well off financially, have a shot at home ownership.
Representative, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.